we starting this video off with a thumbnail? The thumbnail is usually the thing that I always get last, and I'm always like, oh crap, I don't have a thumbnail. But we might even just start off this whole video with a great thumbnail. Crane M3, what? So here's the brand new Zhiyun Crane M3. What's cool about these is the size and weight of these. They're very travel friendly. I don't know if you can see exactly how small it is. I'll put it up next to a few other gimbals later, but they still have a decent payload. Like the Crane M2 was even smaller, and it was designed for point and shoot cameras, but it was still able to hold some small APS-C cameras. But I was actually surprised at how popular that M2 was, and I think it's because everyone wanted this tiny, no frills gimbal that just gives them the smooth shots they want, and they want to be able to travel with it and not have it take up so much space and not be such a headache. And I feel like this is along those lines, but instead of it being designed more for point and shoot cameras, I feel like this is really good for APS-C cameras. This is the Sony ZV-E10. It actually can hold some bigger full frame sensors like the A7S III or A7 IV with the right lenses, but I think it's really designed more for APS-C cameras, which I actually think is great because there's already a ton of gimbals out there designed to hold the A7S III, but by focusing it more on the APS-C size cameras, you're able to make something a lot smaller. And if you have something like this ZV-E10, this might be the way to go. So let's go give it a test. Come on, let's go. Come on guys, we're gonna have a blast today. Are you guys ready? I hope so. I'm really excited. Come on, what? Dude, come on, we're losing the light. Let's go. All right, we are now vlogging with the gimbal. How's this? The weight's actually really good. I could do this all day. But what's interesting is this camera is not balanced at all right now. I actually took the gimbal and just threw this microphone up top. You know, that's one of the nice things about having stronger motors is that if you slap on an ND filter or something like that, you can usually get away without balancing it. But if you're maxing out your payload, then you need that balance to be perfect. So you're constantly tweaking that balance. But here, the balance is pretty off and it seems pretty smooth so far. Let me go ahead and triple tap the trigger and now it's pointing this way. How you doing, Dylan?
I'm doing all right.
How's life?
Yeah, it's like a 7 out of 10.
7 out of 10? Mine's about an 8.
An 8?
It's actually an 8 right now,
How are you
so that's
doing
decent.
good?
I'm doing pretty good, yeah.
Why?
Because I'm potato jet, man.
Now I feel upset. Now my day dropped to a 5. Everyone's doing better than me.
Let's get Dylan to a 7.6 at least. Give him some compliments. What do you think about this gimbal, Dylan?
It's very stormtrooper looking.
I've been holding this camera out for how long now? Like a couple minutes, and it's actually not bad. Here, Dylan, you try. A lot of times you have to hold it straight out, or at least hold it, you can't just rest it on your shoulder.
Yeah,
so every ounce counts.
Yeah, now I feel like all those vlogs I've seen.
Yeah, yeah.
Just a person that's
So
kind
your
of...
composition's a little out here. Let me just help you out there. You got too much headroom. All right, there, now try it.
Okay. Something like that?
Oh my God, too much headroom, Dylan.
What do you mean? I can't tell.
You got too much headroom. All right, put it back out.
Like that?
Yeah, there. So here's a little size comparison with the Weebill 2, and this is something I consider to be a compact gimbal for full frame cameras. And this is DJI's Ronin RS-C2. So it's a great gimbal, more capacity, but if you have a ZV-E10, this is gonna give you very similar results at a fraction of the size, the cost, and the weight. All right, so let's try this out. 28 to 75. Comes with this thumb screw, so I can just hand tighten it down. And each axis does have its own lock, which is great for if you're transporting it around, you don't want it swinging around, but also when you're balancing, you could do one thing at a time. Now, I have it scooted back all the way, but it is still a little bit front heavy, so most likely you're gonna wanna use APS-C lenses. They tend to be smaller. If you really wanted to, you could probably counterbalance it and throw some weight off the back to even it out. Let's try this lens. This is the 24mm f1.8 prime, and this is an APS-C lens, so it's more suited for this camera. Oh, this one's gonna have no problems. I can actually scoot it forward a little bit, and we're balanced, and we have full range of motion above and below. Also, check this out. We have a little light on here. I have this like magnetic orange gel light on here, but I don't think we need that because I can actually adjust the color temperature of the light itself. Now, there is a quick release for the camera, which is right here. So you pull this off to the side, and then you can press this button. Comes off. Oh, I should have turned this off before I did that. Whoops. All right, let's try balancing this full frame A7 IV on here. I have the 16 to 35 f4. All right, looks like we're in business. It definitely does feel like we're at the upper end of size in terms of camera that we can put on here. It seems like it's not having any issues with the weight. I think really the limitation is right here in the size. And notice that this eyepiece gets whacked by the back motor if I go too low, so you want to keep it up here. All right, let me get a little video clip. Yeah, it seems to be just fine here. All right, got a 24mm prime on here, and I'm just gonna go around and get some shots of the evening and the lens face.
Yeah, Gene told me to say stuff because he brought me out to Santa Monica for some reason. And he also told me to say, this is filmed on a 50mm, so let's see what this 50mm can do. And you know, we just see a bunch of rides and stuff. It's kind of weird how you can like, you know, sit in a seat but actually move a lot. It's this weird juxtaposition between thrill and not thrill. And hey, look, it's like some bumper car stuff. I feel like at some point I probably got pretty hurt on this, but you know, something that I guess is safe for kids on some level.
So all the footage from this night seems to have come out really smooth. I was bouncing between a 24mm prime and a 50mm prime. And remember, there's a crop factor here, so it's more like a 35mm and a 75mm if you're comparing it to full frame. I did turn off all stabilization on the camera as well as the lens. No IBIS, no digital image stabilization. Gimbal is doing all the work. So what's nice to see here is that even at the tight end, we're not seeing any sort of bobble. That's something we would have seen on the M2 when we started going with the larger lenses. So definitely stronger motors here. I also thought the ZV-E10 was looking real good. I shot it in HLG2 and just did a quick grade on it. But this shot here with those yellow pillars did make me realize how bad the rolling shutter is actually on the ZV-E. So that's something to keep in mind with this camera. But it's really nice having this camera on a gimbal because there is no IBIS in this camera. So it's a lot less forgiving if you're doing handheld work. But here's the thing, I don't think there was any surprise that this thing came out smooth. I mean, Zhiyun's been making these gimbals forever, but my favorite part of using this is, check this out. Let's look at the scale here. We got the 10 to 18mm lens, camera, battery, memory, audio receiver, and gimbal all in, and we are looking at 3.04 pounds. And this is my compact setup here. This is 16 to 35 f4. And again, the f4 is going to be lighter than the f2.8, but then this is the A7 IV and the mic. Let's go ahead and weigh it out. 3.17. So when I keep saying this thing feels really light, that's because this whole entire setup that's stabilized on a gimbal is still lighter than this. And once you want to start stabilizing this on a gimbal, you're probably doubling the weight of this. I want to be able to just get good stable footage with my APS-C cameras without feeling like I'm doing curls all day. All right, so today I'm going to go ahead and try to get some before shots of this space. I know we've had this space for a while, but what we realized is that the building department, the health department, and the city, they all take really, really long to allow you to do anything. But right now we are super close to getting the official green light from everybody. And once we do, construction begins. You guys should totally let me know down there in the comments what you think we're going to be doing with this space. It'll be fun. But in the meantime, enjoy the beautiful before shots. Okay, the before shots don't look good right now, but when we compare it to the after shots, when everything's all said and done, it's gonna look awesome. One of the things I catch myself doing pretty often with gimbal shots is I try to move really fast through a space to try to make the move look all cool and epic. But really, you could just do a real slow move, and it may not look like much is changing on the little display, but when you blow it up on a big screen, like that little move adds a lot. More is less, right? No, less is more. That's right, that's the saying. As long as all goes well, we should be back here in about 2, maybe 3 months, and this place should look completely different. So wish us luck. All right, it's getting too dark in here. I didn't realize it was daylight savings today. So yeah, it's already a lot darker than I thought it was gonna be at this time. All right, let's go. I try to avoid onboard lighting as much as possible, but sometimes you just need to see. I'm at 12,800 ISO right now, wide open on this f4 lens. And I can't really see much, but if I turn on this light, oh, hey Dylan, how you doing?
All right, just hiding in the dark.
And with my thumb, I can control the color of the light as well as the brightness of the lights. It actually does shoot out a lot of light. Now, I don't know if it's something that I'll be using all the time, but there may be times where I just need to see what's happening, so could be useful. They also just sent me this. This is a plate specifically for the ZV-E10. There's also one for the M50 and the A7. And what's nice is when you quick release it, you can still access the battery and memory card port. If I can figure out how to open, how do I, yeah, there, ha. See, I know what I'm doing. Oh, actually, I almost forgot the best part here. See this? How it says Crane M3, but then you turn it off. It's gone. It does look kind of cool though, doesn't it? You said it looked like a stormtrooper?
Yeah. And you know when you move around, it can go like dun 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 dun.
One of the things I do keep hearing is how hard it is to balance a gimbal, but it's really not so much. I mean, just think of it as 3 steps. You just got to balance your tilt first, then balance your roll, and then balance your pan. And here, let me just show you real quick. It helps to just lock everything into place so you could just tackle one thing at a time, and you want to make sure you have all your filters and microphones, and if you're going to have your screen flipped out or in. So I always start off with the tilt, so let's unlock that, and we'll find out 2 things. Is it front heavy or back heavy? So it's front heavy right here, and also is it bottom heavy or top heavy? You can see it's too far this way, which is the bottom, so we just have to make those adjustments. So let's go ahead and slide this back so it's not so front heavy, and since it's bottom heavy, we just have to see how far up we have to slide it in order for it to kind of feel generally centered. And then when you make this adjustment, sometimes you have to come back and see now it feels a little back heavy, so we slide this forward and back a little bit. So the tilt is probably the hardest part, but once you have that, everything else is pretty easy. So this is feeling pretty good right there. So let's go ahead and lock that up. Now we're gonna go ahead and release the roll, which is this motion right here, and we can see that this side's heavier, so we just have to basically slide it by releasing this lever, slide it this way. Now too far, you just have to kind of figure out its center of gravity. That's looking good right there. Now let's lock that up, and time for the final one, the pan. So I'm going to loosen this, and you can see actually it's pretty well balanced right here. If you put it on its side, if it's unbalanced, here I'll slide it over, you can see that now it's front heavy, so you just have to kind of bring that back, and it's pretty straightforward. Once you do this enough times, it's very easy. You shouldn't really have to spend much time balancing these things. What's nice about this plate is you can release the camera, change your battery, do all that stuff, and still slide it into the same spot and not have to redo your balance, at least until you have to change lenses. All right, now we're just gonna go ahead and do an auto calibration, which is gonna shake this camera around a little bit. It's just trying to figure out how heavy the camera on here is. And that's pretty much it. I always go in that order: tilt, roll, and pan, and then do the calibration. You should be pretty much good to go. Now everyone's got a slightly different preferences on how they want their gimbal to feel, so you could always go into your parameter settings and adjust your smoothness, follow speed, and deadband. You have the option between low, medium, and high, but I personally like to have my deadband very, very low, so I have to hook it up to the computer and use this calibration app to customize my setting there. Now deadband is basically how responsive the camera is to your pan, so if I have a big deadband, then even if I turn this handle, the camera will keep aiming straight, but the more I turn it, the more it will eventually start to pull the camera in that direction. This is the 30mm Sigma, by the way. Should we take this out for a little spin? But yeah, overall, really liking this setup here. I always like the ZV, but I feel like one of its biggest weaknesses is that it doesn't have IBIS. It's harder to get a stable shot. So this seems like a great solution where it still maintains the size and weight factor. And actually, it looks like it was designed for this camera almost, right? Links down there in the description if you're interested. Thanks for watching, and bye.
Yeah.
Cool, that was a great ending.
Yeah.
Isn't it? That was a great close to a video.
Oscar award winning.